हेलो एवरीवन, गुड इवनिंग। वेलकम टू टेस्टबुक सुपर कोचिंग फॉर रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज एंड आपका इस सेशन में स्वागत है। वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट द पीआईबी के ऊपर हमारी बात होगी। लास्ट वीक में जो प्रेस इंफॉर्मेशन ब्यूरो की मेन न्यूज थी उसके अराउंड हम लोग डिस्कशन करेंगे। फर्स्ट विल टॉक अबाउट द न्यूज एंड देन विल टॉक अबाउट फ्यू एमसीक्यूज डिपेंडिंग ऑन दोज न्यूज इन दिस सेशन। So for the next 1 hour, we are going to discuss about this news. So I will start with the session without wasting your time. Once again, very good evening to you all. Before moving forward, before going to start this session where we are going to discuss the PIB of last week, do share this session and जिन्होंने अभी तक हमारे इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया होगा तो प्लीज एक बार चैनल को सब्सक्राइब भी कर दीजिएगा। ओके, सो आई विल स्टार्ट विद द सेशन। हम डिस्कशन स्टार्ट कर देते हैं and we will discuss about the main factors around this particular session. Now in the last week cabinet announcements were there. So last week cabinet had some important meeting and they announced few things which are really very important for the exam point of view. So we'll start with those announcements, we'll start with those meetings and then we'll move forward around the rest of the part of the PIB. Okay, the first thing which was announced by the cabinet in the last week, and that was about the status of classical languages. This news is not that important for our exam point of view, but yes, there can be a questions around this particular news in future regarding the classical language. So what are the announcements given by the cabinet? What are the announcements done by the cabinet? Again, very important for us. So we'll talk about these announcements. The classical languages. So 5 classical languages added by the cabinet recently. Already in India, we have 6 classical languages, which was this concept was started since 2004. So basically, what are the classical languages? What exactly the classical language concept is? So first of all, we'll talk about that. This concept belongs to which kind of thing and how it is being decided. So all that basic concepts we are going to discuss in this particular session. So now, ध्यान दीजिएगा. The first thing is that in October 2004, Tamil was added as the classical language by the government of India. So Culture Ministry in the year 2004 started with this concept called as a classical language. So for that, they gave certain criteria, they gave some conditions. So initially, they gave these 3 conditions to become the classical language. But within next year, means within 2005, they changed the conditions and the new conditions came forward. So we'll talk about these 4 conditions depending on which we talked about the classical language. The first condition is the high antiquity of its early text record history over a period of 1500 to 2000 years. So if some language should be a classical language, for that the first criteria is that the birth of that language or the text related to that language at least having the history of 1500 to 2000 years history it should have. That is the first condition which they have added. The second condition is a body of ancient literature text which is considered as the valuable heritage by generations of speakers. Now again the historical background, generation of speakers should follow the same text, the same body of the language. That is the second condition. Third, a literary tradition be original and not borrowed from another speech. Not borrowed from another speech. That is the most important condition. So what are the literary, what are the things which we are using for the certain language? It should not be borrowed from some another language. That is the third condition. And the fourth condition is the classical language and literature being distinct from the modern. There may also be discontinuity between the classical language and its latter form or its offshoot. Sometimes it happens because we are not going to use the ancient language as it is. There is always an offshoot between the modern language which we are using and the classical language, but it can be considered and it will be considered. That is a point mentioned by the government of India. All these 4 pointers were decided in year 2005 by the Culture Ministry, and after that we added a few more languages. So in 2004 we added Tamil, then we added Sanskrit, then Kannada, Telugu, then Malayalam, and in 2014 we added Odia. So 6 languages already into this category. Now we added 5 more languages recently, and that's the concept mentioned. So these are the 6 languages which I was talking about. So Tamil was the first language become the classical language. Then the Sanskrit, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and then the Odia in 2014 become the classical language. So after the gap of 10 years, we added 5 more languages, and these languages are like I have already mentioned. I will show you the new languages which we have already discussed about, by the way. These are the Marathi, then Bengali. So Marathi, Pali, Prakrit, Assami, and Bengali. These 5 languages included by the government of India recently. So total 11 languages are now into this classical language category. Now, what will be the benefit of this? If the language become classical, what will be the benefit of this to that particular language, to that particular culture? Look, we have official languages in our constitution. Official languages are the constitutional concept. 22 official languages we have. These languages we use for communication. These languages we use for the official communications or the official work. Now, classical language having the rich historical background, classical background, and for that purpose the languages will be promoted, conserved, preserved by the government of India. And for that purpose, government will provide grant to create some university. Government will provide grant to promote that particular language, the text of that particular language. So funds will be provided, job creation will be done by the government of India, and various universities or various departments will be created along the line regarding this particular language. So I will show you the benefits which are mentioned by the government of India. So what government of India is talking about. So Ministry of Education has taken various steps to promote the classical language. Central universities can be created, like they have created for Sanskrit as well as Tamil. So that will be done by for these new 5 languages. To further enhance the study and preservation of classical language, that can be also done by this particular ministry. So basically, this concept is given by cultural ministry, but will be promoted by the education ministry over the period of time, and that's the point mentioned here by the government of India. Okay. Now, like I have mentioned, these 5 languages. Now, remember the most important thing which is mentioned by the government separately, and that is about the employment generation. So, employment generation will be there along the line of these languages. Those who are already having the PhDs or having masters or having interested in these languages, they can get the more and more jobs in various universities, in various departments, conservation of the text, conservation of the literature, in etc. in that ways. Now, the states belong to these languages. It's a very easy part. Everyone is going to remember that Maharashtra, of course, Marathi, Bihar, UP, and Madhya Pradesh, Pali and Prakrit. So these 3 states, Pali and Prakrit. Then West Bengal, Bengali, Assam, Assami. So very easy to remember, by the way. It's not that difficult part, but still it is important to cover this section. So that's all about the classical language concept. It is not a constitutional concept. It is obviously decided by the government of India. Cabinet will decide. So 2004 was the first time when we talked about the classical language, and Tamil became the classical language in that year. And after 20 years gap, more 5 languages become the classical language in our country. That will be enough for the exam point of view if we'll talk about this news. The next news is about Cabinet approves India to join International Energy Efficiency Hub by signing the letter of intent. So letter of intent shows that government of India is interested to join certain group. So letter of intent shows the intention of the government to join certain group, certain institution, or certain part of some agreements. So under letter of intent, government of India or the cabinet decided to join this certain group. Obviously, that group will allow us to be the part of their administration, their organization. What is the name of the group? Basically, International Energy Efficiency Hub is the name of the group. This hub is headquartered in France. Paris में इसका headquarter है, called as the International Energy Efficiency Hub. Now, this hub is responsible for more efficient use of energy. For example, in India, we have one concept called as a BEE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. You have been heard. 101% you saw that BEE is the tag on many electronic gadgets. Like in India, we have the tag of like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star on the electronic gadgets, where shows the energy efficiency of fridge, energy efficiency of AC, or the energy efficiency of a television set. So that is that tag is given by the BEE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So basically, India wants to join the international organization who is working on such kind of criteria called as a energy efficiency. And already 16 countries are the part of this hub. Now India wants to become the part. So we signed the letter of intent. Of course, this authority will give entry to India depending on this letter of intent. So this organization was established in year 2020 by International Energy Agency, IEA. IEA's headquarters is in Paris, France, and in the that headquarter only they created this hub called as a energy efficiency hub. Consists of 16 countries. The name of the countries are also mentioned here: Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, Denmark, European Commission, France, Germany, Japan, Korea, Luxembourg, Russia, Saudi Arabia, US, and UK. These are the countries which become the part of this particular hub. So 16 countries are already there. If they will give entry to India, already they are interested anyways. Okay, this is going to happen the day or the other. So India will become the 17th member of this particular group. So what will be the benefit of this? Obviously, what are the research development, what are the new things comes with the energy efficiency they are going to share with India. India will be the part of this international organization. So what are the things manufactured in India along the line will get export orientation, will get demand in these Western or the European countries. So export can get also improved or increased due to this criteria. Now, who will represent India in this group? So BEE is going to represent India in this group called as a Bureau of Energy Efficiency. We created this group in the year 2002 by the Act of 2001. So Energy Conservation Act we signed in 2001 by the Parliament, and in 2002 we created Bureau of Energy Efficiency under Power Ministry. Manohar Khattar is a minister of Ministry of Power, and under his ministry this BE works. And this authority is going to represent India in International Energy Efficiency Hub. That will be the case. So that's the announcement by the cabinet. All the factors responsible for this news we have covered. So questions can be asked. Mostly questions will be very easy, one-liner questions around this particular news regarding the International Energy Efficiency Hub. How many members, when it was created, where is the headquarter, under which authority it works. India signed this, India showing the intent to join this authority as a 17th member. Who is going to represent India? This authority we created in which year, by which law? That can be the another question for the exam point of view. So that was a announcement by cabinet. We'll go to the next news, and next news is really very important. Government of India cabinet announced that all these centrally sponsored agriculture scheme will be divided into two major umbrella scheme. Already we have these two schemes in India called as the Pradhanmantri Krishi Vikas Yojana and Krishonnati Yojana. So we are having two schemes in India. One is called Krishonnati, another is called as a Pradhanmantri Krishi Vikas Yojana. So government announced whatever the centrally sponsored agriculture schemes in India will be classified into these two umbrella schemes. So the classification or the reorientation of the government schemes done here by the government of India, but only for centrally sponsored scheme. Centrally sponsored means central and the state together going to implement the schemes called as a centrally sponsored scheme, and central sector scheme means the complete authority stands with the government of India. Like PM Kisan is a central sector scheme, whereas the Fasal Bima Yojana or the Soil Health Card are the centrally sponsored scheme, and such schemes will be now classified into two major categories. Now let's see how the classification will be done and what is the criteria for this classification. So Government of India announced clearly that Pradhanmantri Krishi Vikas Yojana and Krishonnati will be the two umbrella scheme for centrally sponsored scheme mentioned in this PIB document. Now government talked about that Rashtriya Kisan Vikas Yojana promote the sustainable agriculture, whereas Krishonnati is going to address the food security and agriculture self-sufficiency. So what are the scheme for food security and agriculture self-sufficiency will come under Krishonnati, whereas the sustainable agriculture will come in the hands of the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. Now remember one thing, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, that the scheme which we are going to discuss here is created in Krishonnati was started in year 2005 by the government of India. The scheme is already very old scheme. 2005 we created this Krishonnati scheme. in 2007-2008, in 2008 we created Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. So these schemes were already there in our country. ये schemes already हमारे देश में पहले से थी. Just we classified this, we just created the classification so that the proper understanding can be done. The another thing, there's a list given by Government of India, I guess total 9 schemes over here, which will be under the part of Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. So 9 schemes are already mentioned over here. जिसमें soil health management, rainfed area development, agroforestry, Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, agriculture mechanization including crop residue management, per drop more crop, crop diversification, RKVY DPR component, accelerator fund for the agri startup. So these are the things will be the part of Pradhanmantri Krishi Vikas Yojana. Again, remember these schemes are already there, just we sub-classified, or we just restructured the whole part of the centrally sponsored schemes in India. That's the news which is important for the exam point of view. We'll move forward. We'll talk about the another scheme. Another scheme belongs to the Agriculture Ministry. National Mission for Edible Oil and Oilseed. This scheme is already there in India, which was started in year 2021. So Government of India decided to extend the scheme for the next phase till the 3031. So for the next 7 years, Government of India decided to extend this scheme. National Mission for Edible Oil and Oilseed. The purpose is that in India, the edible oil import is too much. We are importing huge amount of edible oil, especially from the Indonesia, Malaysia. By the way, all over the world, the India is the largest importer of edible oil and the oil seeds. So we are the largest importer all over the world. So that's why we should focus on the production. We should focus on the Indian manufacturing, especially focusing on the oil seeds. That's why in 2021 we started this mission. Malaysia recently announced they are interested helping India regarding this mission. Though we are importing oil seeds or the edible oil from Malaysia, but still Malaysia is showing some intent, some interest that they want to work with Indian government regarding this mission. So we decided to extend this scheme till 3031. So of course for that we have new target, and the new target for this scheme is 69.7 million tons of oil seeds will be the focus of Government of India till 3031, and the budget allocation will be 10,103 crore for the next 7 years, that is mentioned by the Government of India. The major focus will be on all the oil seeds like sarso. You can see over here, like we have these soya bean. We are also going to focus on the sunflower, then sesame. So we are going to focus on all those types of edible oils which are used in India. It will helpful for farmers also, because doubling the income of farmer can be the one aspect of this, and second aspect is we need to reduce the import as soon as possible, because we are the largest importer of edible oil. We have the huge requirement in our country, so we need to control these things as soon as possible, and that's why these things are mentioned here by the Government of India. Okay, I'll move forward. We'll go to the next part. We'll go to the next news under this particular category. Yes, Pradhanmantri Janaushadhi Kendra. In year 2008, in India, we started Pradhanmantri Janaushadhi Pariyojana in 2008. Obviously, the name is being changed in 2015. So, Pradhanmantri Janaushadhi Pariyojana is the name of the scheme. Under this scheme, we created Janaushadhi Kendras. Right now, we have 13,822 Janaushadhi Kendras. Why we are discussing this odd number? The reason is that under this Kendras, under these 13,822 Kendras, we achieved the business of 200 crore for the first time in the month of September, and that news was shared by the government. So, Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer, the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizer, under which we have the department called as a pharmaceutical department, which is responsible for the management of this scheme called as a Pradhanmantri Janaushadhi Pariyojana. So we created 13,822 shops, out of which one shop is created in Mauritius, which is out of India. So that can be the another question which was recently news. So together we achieved the business of 200 crore in these shops. The focus of Government of India is to provide generic medicines, to provide subsidized essential medicines, as well as some medical equipments important for the surgeries. So these things we provide using these particular shops. So we achieved the landmark feature under this scheme. So that's why question can be asked. That will be enough for the exam point of view. In future, suppose this record will get break, so obviously the new numbers we need to remember. The odd numbers are there regarding the shops, but anyways, it was the news under PIB, so we should know about that. At least for the phase 2, for the case study, it will be crucial. So in 2008, we started this particular scheme. It was renamed in 2015 as a Pradhanmantri Janaushadhi Pariyojana. That will be enough for the exam point of view. Yes, PM Kisan, Kisan Sanman Nidhi. So recently, Government of India, recently Prime Minister of India released the 18th installment of the PM Kisan. Kisan Sanman Nidhi. This scheme was initiated by Government of India in year 2019. Under this scheme, government provides 6,000 rupees in 3 installments of 2,000 rupees each to the farmers for the work as a working capital. So 18th installment was recently released by the Government of India in Maharashtra, Washim. Whenever Government India initiate the installment, there is always a news, there is always a big news. That's why we need to revise it repetitively, and that's the concept over here. That's it, nothing more. It's just a revision type of news because of the 18th installment. That's all for the exam point of view. Now, this is very, very important for all the exams. Of course, there will be multiple questions. Recently, there was a 6th US-India commercial dialogue meeting held in New Delhi between the India and the USA. So you can see the Indian Commerce Minister and the counterpart from the USA. This meeting was really very crucial because we signed multiple MOUs, multiple agreements with USA for the future prospect. USA is going, right now the election process is going on in USA. That's why this kind of agreements are really very important for us. The another thing is that from Jan to July, USA is the biggest trading partner of India. If we'll talk about the last financial year, China is the biggest trading partner due to the major import from the China. But from Jan to July, if you'll consider the data, USA is the biggest trading partner of India, especially due to our export. We are exporting many things. USA is so much interested with the India's the development with India, especially semiconductor, critical minerals. So that's why we signed few agreements with the country. Let's go through the agreement. Let's see the agreements which we have signed with them will be really very important. So directly I'm opening the PIB document. Yes, the first agreement which we have signed with them is a semiconductor MOU for the semiconductor, especially warfare oriented, especially defense oriented semiconductor manufacturing. So USA is helping India. That's the first point. The second point is about innovation handshake MOU. Innovation. So innovation will be promoted. US is helping India for the more innovative activities. So this handshake and this innovation MOU will be really very important. The third point is about US-India Energy Industry Network, which we created like 2-3 years back. So US-India Energy Industry Network. So what are the energy industries, energy companies are there? So to create the network of these companies, that is a major factor. Then the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. We are the part of this group. This group was created in 2020. So India became the part of this group. Recently, we signed supply chain, fair economy and the clean economy agreements under this particular group, which was created in year 2020, having 14 members. India is one of the founding member of this group. Then after that, critical mineral MOU. In India, we have 30 notified critical mineral, and for that purpose, US is going to support India. In USA, 35 minerals being mentioned by the government, their government. We have 30 minerals, especially lithium is very much in news these days. Government of India also decided to reduce the taxes, especially custom duty on the these critical minerals in the latest budget presentation. So that's why this agreement will be really very important. Other than these agreements, the Indus Innovation, where innovation agreement between India and USA, then women-owned and small and medium-sized enterprises, expanding startup and the SME resource in Bengaluru, travel and tourism, and healthcare. These are the other agreements which we have signed with the USA. So this meeting, the 6th meeting, was really very productive between India and USA. So Commerce Minister of both the countries were the part of this meeting, which was organized in New Delhi. Very fruitful meeting, very important meeting. So many questions can be asked in future around this particular meeting. Even the future deals, the future businesses will be depending on this meeting. That's why we need to revise it repetitively. So in future also we'll talk about these meetings or the products of these meetings in our lectures. Now the next is very simple. Department of Post signed the agreement with the Amazon for the logistic purposes. This is not the first time that Indian Post and the Amazon is signing this agreement. In 2013, first time the Indian Post and the Amazon signed the agreement for logistic purposes. Amazon is one of the biggest e-commerce company of the world, working in India, having a huge business in India. So they are taking help from the Indian Post for the logistical purposes to deliver their stuff to the customers. And Indian Post having a beautiful network in this country. Indian Post having the best networking in this country. So that's why their infrastructure will be used by the Amazon. So this agreement was first time signed in 13. They just renewed the agreement. Indian Post comes under the Communication Ministry. Jyotiraditya Scindia is a Communication Minister right now, which we already know. Now the next is important, not because of the current news, but because of this particular part called as the NMMSS. This is really very important for us. So in Uttar Pradesh, there was a meeting, there was a workshop around NMMSS. So what exactly this particular concept is? But before that, we'll go through the PIB news once, so that a few things should be clear. First of all, Education Ministry is important for this. They organized one workshop in Uttar Pradesh, obviously with the state government. Now, what is NMSS? So, National Means Cum Merit Scholarship Scheme. National Means Cum Merit Scholarship Scheme is the name of the scheme which was in news, and under this scheme, the workshop is being organized by the Government of India. Now, National Means Cum Merit Scholarship Scheme. So, what exactly this scheme is, when this scheme was started by the Government of India? So, let's talk about that. It is a central sector scheme which was launched in 2008-9. So, it's a very old scheme which is still working. Central sector. So, everything will be handled by central government. They are only asking state government for the proper data to implement this scheme. So, was started in 2008-9. Reduce the dropout in class 8. So the meritorious student, the students who were very good with the studies, but unfortunately they are dropping out. So to attract them back, to reintroduce them to the education system, we started this scheme under which we are providing scholarship. So there are some terms and conditions. So first of all, encourage students to continue study at the secondary stage. So we are focusing on the after the class 8, so class 9 till the class 12 they are talking about. So class 9, class 10, 11 and 12. So for those classes, this scholarship will be provided. So after the class 8, if students are dropping from their studies, so Government of India is trying to attract them back to the studies, trying to pull them back to the studies from the 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. So 9 to 12 will be the major focus areas. Now what government is providing? Scholarship of rupees 12,000 per annum. So 1,000 per month scholarship will be provided, so that whatever the financial burden the family of these students are facing, or the students themselves are facing, will be try to counter those financial burdens. So 1,000 per month will be provided to these students and their families. The selection of the student award the scholarship is made through the examination conducted by the state government. The state government's job will be for the selection of these students who are going to get this scholarship. That is a major factor mentioned here by the Government of India. The another thing, 1,000 per month, this amount will be provided by the State Bank of India. The State Bank of India is the official partner, a banking partner for this particular NMMSS scheme. So that will be the case here. Eligibility criteria. The first thing is 55 marks or equivalent in the class 12. That is the first eligibility criteria. Second criteria is there, the family income should not be more than 3,50,000. So that should be the family income, or less than that should be the family income. So these two things really very important for the exam. The third thing, again, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, these students will not be included, or the private school going students will not be the part of this particular scheme, because already many facilities are provided for the Kendriya Vidyalaya, Navodaya Vidyalaya students. If the student is going in the private schools, they are already having the financial backup. So those students will not be the part of this particular scheme. So again, 12,000 rupees per year. The amount will be provided quarterly by the State Bank of India. The criteria eligibility is 55% marks in the 8 standards or more. Then the family income should be less than 3,50,000. That is another criteria mentioned by the Government of India. So that was all about this particular news. The next news about the CPI, Consumer Price Index of Industrial Worker. CPI IW is really very important, especially for the calculation or for the DA calculation, dearance allowance calculation of the employee, government employee. So what are the salary calculations we are doing in our country is depending on the CPI IW. CPI IW is calculated by the Labor Ministry. They are responsible for the calculation of this under the Labor Bureau. Here, the base year is 2016 is a base year which we are using as a calendar year. Base year as a calendar year we are using over here. We need not to go much in detail about this data. Okay, of course, I have mentioned the whole news here, so we'll go through the PIB. But for the exam point of view, there is no need to go that much in detail. Just you should know that CPI industrial worker is calculated by Labor Ministry. CPI combined, which is a headline inflation of our country, is calculated by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now we were talking about the IW industrial worker. So 88 industries which being calculated over here. The data is being considered like that by the Government of India. That's it. It has been decreased basically in the last 2 months. We can see the downward focus of the CPI, focus of the inflation. So under this CPI IW, we calculate near about 6 things: food, beverages, pan supari, tobacco, intoxicants, clothing, footwear, housing, fuel, light, and the miscellaneous. So under general index, if you'll see, in the month of July, it was the 142.7. In the month of August is 142.6. So marginal change there from 142.7 to 142.6. Very, very small and the minute change is there. That's it. Again, the data is of month of August, not the month of September. So there is a gap of 1 month while presenting this IW data. This data is really, really very important to calculate the dearance allowances when it comes to government servants or any other salaried person in our country, which is given by the Labor Ministry or the Labor Bureau. Okay. The next news is very simple and everyone knows about that. It's one of the very easy news. The RBI's external members being appointed by the government. So there was a committee called as the committee headed by the TV Somnathan sir. He's a cabinet secretary of India. Along with him, RBI governor as well as Ajay Seth sir. He's a economic affairs secretary. So 3 people committee or 3 member committee, they decided to appoint these 3 members as an external member of Monetary Policy Committee. Monetary Policy Committee concept was initiated in year 2016 under section 45 ZB of the RBI Act of 1934. We have the 6 member in this committee. 3 members coming from the RBI called as the internal members, and 3 members coming from the Government of India called as the external members. So Ashima Goyal, Shashanka Bhide, and Jayant Verma sir, they retired from this after their tenure of 4 years. So external members coming from the government having the tenure of 4 years. Internal members don't have such a fixed tenure. They are the RBI employees, so that's why their tenure will be depending on their job. Now, when it comes to these 3 external members, Nagesh Kumar sir is the Chief Executive of Institute of Studies of Industrial Development. Then Ram Singh sir is the Director of Delhi School of Economics. And then Saugata Bhattacharya is an independent economist. These 3 being appointed as a member of Monetary Policy Committee. In this week itself, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting will be there. And in that meeting, might be there are chances that repo rate will get reduced. If it happens, it will be a very good news. Otherwise, for the 10th monetary policy, consecutive 10th monetary policy, the rate will become unchanged. We don't know right now what will happen because the meeting will be there, and after that meeting, they are going to decide what will happen with the repo rate, what will happen with the policy rate. But that will be the next discussion. Right now, we just should know there's 3 new members appointed by the Government of India in the MPC. Remember, the section 45 ZB will be really very important. Under that section 45 ZB, since 2016, we have this committee. The external members having the tenure of 4 years, whereas internal members don't have such fixed tenure. Their presence in MPC will be depending on their job with RBI. The another thing is that the whole composition, the whole criteria is given by or implemented on the recommendations of Urjit Patel committee. The Urjit Patel committee gave the recommendation, and after that we did some amendment with the RBI Act of 1934, and we created this concept in our country. That will be enough for the exam point of view. Yes, the next news, government's borrowing plan for the second half of the 24-25. I guess we discussed about this. I guess we talked about this earlier in our sessions. So second half of this year, Government of India is having some plans how they are going to borrow the money. So let's go through the plan for the two half. Like normally the fiscal deficit is there. So depending on fiscal deficit, we have the borrowing plan for the first half and for the second half. So for the first half, we borrowed few certain amount of money, and for now this is the plan for the second half. Let's see what is the total or what is the overall numbers we have for the borrowing. So 14.01 lakh crore we are planned to borrow this financial year, out of which 6.6 lakh crore, that is 47.2, is planned to be borrowed in the second half. The second half mein we are going to borrow 6.61 lakh. Government of India is focusing to borrow less. What is the target? We have decided 14.01. So less than that we are going to borrow. That is a plan of Government of India. But let's see what will happen in future, because we don't know right now. Now, out of this 6.61 lakh, 20,000 will be by the sovereign green bond. That will be the 100% question for the exam. So out of 6.61 lakh crore, 20,000 crore will be by sovereign green bond. That is a target set aside by the Government of India. In the first half, we failed to borrow money through sovereign green bond. It failed because of the greenium issue. The investors were not that interested. Let's hope positive. Let's hope the positive news for the second half. Now, right now, other borrowing criteria were also mentioned by the Government of India. For example, GSEC for or the dated security for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years, and 50 years. So these were the few bonds, government bonds, Government of India is going to issue. Certain amount of money through T-bills, treasury bills, where also Government of India talked about the 19,000 crore for 13 weeks, 7,000 crore for the 91 days, then 6,000 crore for the 182 days, and the 6,000 crore for the 364 days under the T-bill, treasury bill, as well as the ways and means advantage, WMA. Under WMA, Government of India is planning to borrow near about 50,000 crore. So 50,000 crore under WMA. WMA is the shortest span loan for less than 91 days whenever Government of India borrows money from RBI, directly from the RBI. That is called as the ways and means advances. So 50,000 crore kept aside under WMA by the Government of India over here. That will be the major aspect. So that's all about this particular news of the borrowing. Now, Prime Minister virtually launched supercomputer Rudra recently. So 3 supercomputers under Rudra category will be launched by the Prime Minister virtually. So one of the Rudra is in Pune. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the supercomputer and then we'll go back to the news. Now, the India's first supercomputer called as a Param 8000, under which this Param Rudra was recently launched, was initiated in the year 1991 by the scientist Vijay Bhatkar sir. He was the person who is called as a father of Indian supercomputer. He started this concept in India. The first supercomputer was Param 8000 and it was in Pune. Now, after that, when it comes to the history of supercomputer, USA first time started this supercomputer concept. We asked supercomputer help from the USA, but that time they denied. So we created our own supercomputer, literally with the half of the cost invested by them to create their supercomputer. So it was a very big achievement for our country. Now, in 2015, Government of India created a national supercomputing mission. And under that mission, we are creating supercomputers these days. So in India, we started this concept in 1991, that is Param 8000. And after that, we never looked back. We are doing a very good job. In 2015, Government of India started this national supercomputing mission, which was I was talking about. And under that mission, recently, we created few supercomputers. India's fastest supercomputer is Airavat. Airavat is the India's fastest supercomputer. So which can be the another question for the exam point of view. So remember that. So what happened recently? So I will show you the news, the PIB news. Now, how many supercomputers we have recently launched under the Param Rudra. where these supercomputers will be, that will be the important factor. So remember, ध्यान दीजिएगा यहाँ पे, 3 supercomputers will help the advanced research, physics and earth science and cosmology. That is a focus mentioned over here. Obviously, Earth Science Ministry is going to play the vital role. The PM Rudra and the HPC system, which Government of India or the Prime Minister recently launched. So 3 supercomputers, Pune, Delhi and Kolkata, where these supercomputers are going to work. That is mentioned by the Prime Minister of India. So that's all about this particular news. So now we'll go towards the MCQs. We'll discuss few MCQs because we have less time. We need to stop in few minutes. But before that, we'll cover this news and then we'll move towards the MCQ part. Now, recently, LOVI is the name of the institution from Australia. They gave the data about the third most powerful nation in Asia. So India became the third most powerful nation in Asia after US and China. This data is given by LOVI Institute. So we'll talk about their data once we'll go through what they are talking about, what the survey mentioned by them is talking about. Just one sec. Yes, this is the website of the LOVI Institute. This is an Australian institute. They gave this data. So according to them, India is ranked third out of 27 countries when it comes to overall category. Now, I will talk about the, I guess, weightage here. That will be the most important thing. You can see USA, then China, then India. So we just surpassed Japan. So Japan को surpass करके हम ऊपर आ गए. इंडिया चाइना ऑलरेडी उसी पोजीशन पे काम कर रहा है. अब यहाँ पे देखिएगा, अगर बात करते, सो अंडर इकोनॉमिक कैपेबिलिटी, मिलिट्री कैपेबिलिटी, रेजिलियंस, फ्यूचर रिसोर्स, influence, then defense network, diplomatic influence, cultural influence, these are the concepts over here. So depending on these categories, we calculated or they calculated this data, and depending on which India become the third powerful country. USA is not the part of Asia, but their influence on Asia is huge, and that's why they are at the top of this particular index, whereas India is at the third number. So that's about the LOVI index given by the Australian institution called as a Asia's most powerful countries. Okay, so that is all. Now we'll start with few MCQs. We'll try to cover few MCQs because of the less time. We will try to cover as many as, otherwise I will provide those MCQs to the PDF in our Telegram channel. So first MCQ regarding the Param Rudra. So read the options. The 3 statements are there. You need to answer which is correct. Param Rudra supercomputer and HPC system are aimed at enhancing India's capabilities in the field such as physics, earth science, cosmology. The HPC system has been tailored specifically for medical research and the development of pharmaceutical solutions. The Prime Minister emphasized that the self-reliance through research and innovation has become a center focus, with the computing capacity being critical to national capabilities. So which statements are correct here? 1 only, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, and 2 only. So answer of this question is 1 and 3. 1 and 3 is important. Now the HPC system has been tailored specifically for medical research and the development of pharmaceutical solution. No, that is not the focus. The focus of this is basically on the weather forecasting is a major focus over here. उसके ऊपर ज़्यादा focus रखा गया है. So answer of this question is 1 and 3. Second statement is wrong, which we already discussed. Now the next question. Government of India has finalized its borrowing program for the second half, planning to borrow total how much amount of rupees through the issuance of dated security, which includes how much crore allocated of sovereign green bond. So sovereign green bond में कितना allocate किया गया? How much amount of money we are going to borrow? So just now we discussed, just now we talked about that. So yes, answer of this question is the first, of course, 20,000 crore on the sovereign green bond front and 6.61 lakh crore for the second half, out of which some dated security, some T-bills and ways and means advances. So 50,000 crore under the ways and means advances by the government of India. Sorry, I guess the answer of the next question is already there. It is finalized that borrowing program of the second half, the gross market borrowing of 6.61 lakh crore will be completed through 21 weeks auction, with the borrowing being spread such as 40 years and 50 years of securities, which we already discussed. Okay, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 40 years, 50 years. So those were the securities mentioned by the government of India. The next question. as a part of finalized borrowings program, the second half of the 24-25, the RBI has fixed the ways and means advances with how much amount of limit and treasury bills, under T-bills, how much amount we are going to borrow. So for ways and means advances, obviously 50,000 rupees and 50,000 crore, 50,000 crore for the ways and means advances, and 19,000 crore when it comes to the treasury bill mentioned by the government of India. We'll take the last question and then we'll stop. What is the name of the initiative that also marks the world's first government-funded multi-model large language model project focused on the creating efficient inclusive AI in Indian language? So recently, Government of India, this news we have discussed in the last time we discussed about this news. The question is about the Bharat Gen. So Bharat Gen is the name of the initiative. Bharat Gen is the name of the AI initiative which is launched by Government of India. So it is the world's first government-funded multi-model large language initiative which we have launched recently. Okay, so IIT Bombay played a vital role for the creation of this Bharat Gen. So that's all from my side for the day. We'll see you in the next session where we'll discuss our current affairs like we discuss on the daily basis on 9 a.m. session. So do join that session every morning from Monday till Saturday. And PIB session is weekly session where we discuss the news, the most important news of the last week, as well as few MCQs depending on those news. So that's all guys from my side for the day. We'll see you in the next session. Bye bye. Take care.